Hello everybody, Conodger here, back in Formula 1 2019, continuing our F1 2019 career. I don't know why I said F1 2019 three times now, but we are done with Singapore, the last of what I call the trio of terribleness, Singapore, Baku, and Monaco. And honestly, I think we did the best with Singapore. I would really like to move on into the future to make those three all tracks that I don't completely dread. The race went really well. I still need to get better at qualifying there. That's certainly a problem, but I honestly couldn't be happier with how the race went in Singapore. And it seems like people genuinely enjoyed watching it too. That might be, honestly, the first time that's ever happened. We do need to do our homework before we begin today, qualifying and practice and qualifying for Russia, as we now basically have parity with the F1 calendar. I have considered in the past doing an F1 series at the same exact time as the real F1 calendar, but that would be pretty drawn out for a YouTube series. But it is something that I might do in the future, especially as, you know, these series, there's now hundreds of these F1 videos from me up on the internet. And moving forward, if we do have to slow down on making these videos, that might be something that I do. But for now, we're gonna just keep bulldozing through the season, so this will be our 1 week of parity, basically. And that means that we do need to look at the R&D tree stuff, where we had a failure on this one, so we need to redo that. That leaves us with 730 points. We didn't end up with a lot of points moving out of Singapore, and that only means we could do a 1 week upgrade. We're still really far behind in chassis, so I think we'll go with that. We're only ahead of Williams and Toro Rosso, who aren't going to be Toro Rosso anymore, apparently. I don't know. I didn't really catch the story or what was going on there. I don't know why they're changing names, if there's some kind of change in leadership. I have no idea. I just know that they're changing names. But let's go ahead and do this tire blanket update, and hopefully we'll get some very nice new crocheted tire blankets. And that will do it for upgrades this week, or R&D stuff. We're still in good shape though. We're just behind McLaren. It's all very close, and our team and McLaren both have gotten really close to the top, so the whole field, I feel, has gotten a lot closer together than we ever saw in any of our 2018 playthrough. So that's pretty interesting. Alrighty, we got some messages here. Carl is saying that they are going to be doing some reliability and durability changes to the regulations for next season. That is fantastic news for us, because we've done so little in those areas that we will have wasted basically none of our development this year. So that's really good news. We don't have that in the books yet. We don't know that that's what we're going to be losing, but that seems to be what they're talking about. And if we look at the development chart here, where even are we? We are, okay, pretty much in parity with McLaren there still. The weather for this weekend, cloudy in qualifying, but a sunny race. That is your 5-day forecast here on the Conodger 240 network. Development failures, the weight reduction monocoque structure failed. That was a 2-weeker. That's unfortunate that failed, but we did get the tire wear and the rear downforce. And that's about it for news. Back to you, Carl, with sports. Alright, so Russia, I am starting with my France baseline setup. I always just want to call it Paul Ricard, but it is France. And this one was a pretty good setup for us, so I'm feeling really good about it here. Might need to do some tweaks here or there, but I feel like this track is pretty demanding on a suspension. You want a lot of pliability there, and you want the car to really be able to rotate. Apparently the brake pressure was not saved. You really want the car to pivot around a lot of these turns as good as you could possibly get it to do, and then you just kind of keep bringing aero off of it in steps, because you want to be able to go as fast down some of those straightaways as possible.
Okay, we'll alter the setup of the car.
For a track acclimatization, this is actually one of my favorite tracks to drive, which is a little bit of an opinion that, I don't know, I don't think people tend to have. I know every time I go to Singapore and I say, boy, do I hate this track, I get at least 1 or 2 comments saying, I don't get it, Singapore is like my favorite track. And it's all just, I gotta calibrate my pedals real quick, hold on. There we go. It's all just, I guess there's just a natural way that your brain processes driving the car, and sometimes certain tracks just to speak to a person different. You have a natural tendency, a natural ability through some kinds of tracks that others don't have, and you do see that in real F1. That's not just a video game thing. Just look at Danny Ricciardo. The way that he can go to Monaco in basically any car, it seems, and instantly do better than he does basically anywhere else. It's really unique. There's certainly other examples as well that I can't personally think of right now. I got some brake balance issues, it seems. But yeah, there's just times, and it happens in other forms of motorsport as well, not just F1, where a driver and a track just really click together. I think people are a little bit more familiar with driver and car clicking together, but it can happen with the track as well. Feels like maybe too much rear bias, too much pressure, I'm not sure, but something has the car really, really oversteering on the brakes. It has also been a good minute since I've been in the car because of travel. I was recording pretty ahead of time for Singapore. I actually ended up watching the race back in Singapore, like just as a viewer, because it had been so long that I honestly just didn't remember exactly what happened. And I really enjoyed it. That's got to be one of the first times I've ever watched one of my own videos and enjoyed it. Yeah, I just don't feel like I have the brake pedal under me. I was just really feathering the brakes trying to keep it from locking up. I might need to just get a little extra seat time right now to get acclimated to the controls, because it is something you really have to drive into your brain. You have to build muscle memory for these things. Because if you just listen to your brain on how to drive these cars, you'll always be behind. Like if you're thinking about the actions of how to drive a car like this, you are already, half a tenth behind where you need to be, and that's how you're, unable to make braking zones, unable to turn in time. That's what makes driving an F1 special. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a perfect lap here, just judging by how messy this one was. And these hard tires certainly don't seem good. I'm starting to feel like maybe not enough aero on the car too. Maybe that's why the brakes are struggling as much as they are. I got the thing a little too trimmed out. So let's just try and back up some of these braking zones a bit. That's still purple. See how far into this lap we can go. That's my favorite part of this track. That whole complex right there, really, really enjoy driving through there. That was green. It was almost a red. That one was. Gosh. That's too bad. Alright, well. No perfect score in this program, but that's alright. Alright, so let's see here. Let's go to setup. And what are we on arrow? 4-5. More than that seems like too much for a track like this, but I'm certainly struggling with front end grip, so I might just go to a parity setup 5-5. And let's see about the suspension. Maybe let's take a little bit of that roll bar out of there. That's kind of an aggressive setup. And I feel like the back is maybe a little too stiff compared to the front. Let's also bring that pressure down some more because I feel like I need some more finesse in the brakes. And we'll go ahead... Let's go ahead and do the race strategy program this time around. And then I'll do qualifying run in Q2 or P2, whatever that is, you know. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Alright, now we got the soft tire on here. That should help more than anything. I feel like the hard tire is just going to be one that I probably want to try to avoid using here. And the real Russian Grand Prix, it seemed to be a soft medium race. Some cars used the hard tires, but it was kind of an unnecessary thing. We're still booking down the straightaways, which leads me to believe we're pretty low on aero overall. Alright, that already feels much better on the brakes. Remember, this turn used to be really tricky. That's how much grip these cars have gained in the past few seasons. For as much as we talk about slowing the cars down all the time, and I feel like people kind of excuse the engine package as, well, you know, we can't have cars as fast as they used to be. These cars are fast. These cars are really... Oh, cut that turn. Yep. That was only a warning. I'm surprised. Yeah, these cars are insanely quick versus what we had years ago. Overran that. That was a big problem in the real race. I watched more of the Russian race than I have most of the races this season, because I was traveling with my brother and father out to a historic race, and we were just kind of sitting around the B&B and didn't have very much to do. So watched more of like qualifying and the race and such than I usually watch. And it definitely was a thing that breaking down that back straightaway for the chicane is one of the most challenging parts of this track. Lots of mistakes there. Albon got it really wrong in qualifying, then made up for it with an amazing race. I feel like he had in Russia the race that we had in Singapore. That's ugly. But to an even better degree. Although his car is a little bit better than this, I think. And, you know, he's a real F1 driver. Definitely gotta watch the exit curbs without TC here. This lap was pretty messy overall. Yeah, I'm definitely having some issues getting it woed up. Reducing the brake pressure helped me not lock up so much, but I still feel like I'm not getting the car slowed down in an efficient amount of time. Bottom out there. Still an effective lap. I feel like I got a good bit of work to do though. to get up to the times we're going to need to be in qualifying anyway. And once we put those softs on here, it's going to be way better. Definitely watching the real lines around the track. Quite a bit different than what I run. I think the biggest thing is on that back straightaway chicane, they just tend to stay way further right versus I kind of hug the inside wall. They do not at all. They swoop in from the right side and then get the car to rotate towards the chicane. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I'll show you what I feel like they do here. So they keep the car way over here, and then, actually later than that, they'll bring the car over to the left. And visually, to me, it looks like they're making the track longer. It looks like they're making... Oops, walk out there. Let's screw this flap up. Yeah, we're good. It looks like they're making that turn harder. But they know better than I. There must be some reason that they go way out there. Optimal pace for the race. Oof. This is, I do really, ooh, I just punched my phone. I do really enjoy this track, but it is certainly a very physical one. You really are snapping the car around a lot here. So I don't expect that this will be an easy one for us. Alright, well, I'll go work on some qualifying runs, and then I'll rejoin you for qualifying.
Welcome back to Sochi. We're about to be joining the action down in the pit lane as the cars get ready to embark on their qualifying runs.
Alrighty, here we go. Qualifying day in Sochi, Russia. Car's feeling really good in qualifying trim. I made some more little adjustments to the setup. I'm still definitely running a really trimmed out car here though. Just off of the Delta in the practice qualifying program. Gaining like 3 or 4 tenths on the straightaways. Kind of struggling in Sector 2 where the aero is really important. And then make it up again in Sector 3 where we have that long straightaway. And the slow section of the track. I feel like in the really slow section where the aero is a bit neutralized, the car is fine. So I really don't foresee any problems getting out of Q3 today. Definitely aiming... Wait, Q1. Don't see any problems getting out of Q1 today. Have every intention of making it to Q3. And I'm really hoping for like a top 6 starting spot. I think the car's got it in it. And I generally like the place, so I feel like I should have it in me. The only thing I'm worried about for this weekend is the car is awful on hards, and it's kind of iffy on mediums too. So the car really responds well to the softer tire, which means we might have to consider different race strategies, or we might have a run in the race that's a little bit compromised versus the other ones. We do have to go on hards. So I will just be minimalizing my time on those. Car is really well dialed in now. I've gotten a lot of that weird oversteer on entry taken away from it. Put a little camber back into it. Did increase our tire wear a bit, but it made it so much easier to drive that I'm probably gonna wear the tires less, just sliding less. And that will make up for it. Probably see it around there. Double check that turn. This is a really important turn of this track. Because it pays dividends all the way down this weird windy back straightaway. Not overdriving this turn is probably the second most critical part of the lap, I think. And right here I've always been able to make up a pretty good amount of time. Definitely closed in on that racing point in front of us. This is a hard one to get right as well, but it's kind of a low-risk turn. You have a lot of leeway. 34.2. It's a pretty good time.
We have 2 laps of fuel remaining.
It will be beaten, but that's more than enough to get to Q2. Hello. Hi. Hi. That's fine. I'm barely a person. I understand. P3 in Q1. That's an interesting time because Kimi ran a 34.0 in practice qualifying, which without the power modes available, and yet he only ran a 34.9 here. And a 34.0 would have been right up there with Hamilton, but this is only Q1. People not showing all their cards just yet. Those McLarens are looking rather quick, and the Williams are really looking pretty quick, at least with Weber in the car. And yeah, that's Q1. The battle up near the top is certainly getting really interesting. I feel like in our career, a lot of the mid-packs are starting to mix themselves into the top. I'm curious how that will play out in future seasons. What I didn't see was anybody try medium tires in Q1, and since they didn't do that, I have the feeling they are too slow to use here to qualify with, and just how they felt in practice, I'm going to say that's probably the case. So we will stick with our softs to start the race. I'm a little bummed by that, but if we had started with softs, we would have had to go to hards, really. I find it really unlikely we would go from a harder compound to a softer compound at the end of the race. That just very rarely seems to happen. It seems to be that if you start on the harder compound, at least in our series here, what you're really looking for is just extending your first pit stop out to try and get out of traffic. That's the reason you do that. It's not necessarily to avoid using the harder compound. Little slide out of the last turn is not going to be a great start to this lap. Since I am a bit worried about these tires lasting, I don't want to push too hard on this lap. Try and be as easy on these tires as possible, but still do a lap that's good enough. I really don't want to do 2 runs in this session. Judging by our pace, there's no reason we should have to unless I really screw up. Sun glare into there is always difficult. Nice. Pretty good run through all of that sector. I don't think it was optimal, but it was good enough. We just have to not screw up down here, and I think we're going to be golden. A little bit of a bobble in there. That kind of fought me all the way down through here. Not my best sector 3. Big third gear hop catching me out again. 34.5, consistency, and that should be good enough to get us through. About half a second down on where I think I'd like to be, but I don't feel like we're in any danger with that. P5, P7 in Q2, so pretty good times there for me and for Kimi. And Sainz just splitting us there. Who gets knocked out? It's Norris, Gasly, Stroll, Weber. Okay, so Hamilton was really slow in this session, so we know he'll probably jump up above us there. Stroll does not make it through, so only one Red Bull makes it through. And Hulkenberg the only Renault to make it through. Interesting. Okay. So we go to Q3 with the goal of, I would say, anywhere P4 to P6 would be great. But even P8 I would be happy with. Beating Kimi is kind of always my goal. And I've been doing that in all of these sessions, so that shouldn't be a problem. I think we got the car to do it. Weather has changed a little bit. It's gotten sunnier out, so might have a little bit more of a problem getting the power down out of some of these turns, but these tires haven't been getting too hot at all. Gonna back down a little bit, but not get in the way of this Mercedes. And here we go. A little bit late on my DRS there. Gotta keep the right sides off the curbs. If you get the right sides on the curbs, they will disqualify your lap. So that was pretty darn close, but pretty darn close is what you want. That means you're getting everything out of it. I'm a bit worried about the pace of this Renault ahead of me. Actually, I'm in a hurry. Oh, that was a slide and a half. But a really nice exit there. Certainly haven't run away from Hamilton behind me. I did it. Oh man, and I screwed up Hamilton's lap too. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't even throw yellow actually. Well, we cooked it on this lap. We're gonna have to put new. We have an extra set, but we're gonna have to put them on and try again. It won't practice getting on pit road anyway. Interestingly, they were only seeing about a 1/10 second difference in the tires, so I don't think we're getting a lot of tire wear here, which is good because I want to run these as long as possible, really. And that means that we probably won't have to use hards in the race. That will make me happy. There's been very few where we've had to. Suzuka's probably one. And now that I think of it, I think we're actually going to be releasing our Suzuka races exactly as the Suzuka race is happening. So that'll be interesting. Not the best exit again there. With nobody coming out of the pits, I like that. I like to be out on track by myself, even if it's not the very last second. Something the real F1 teams have been struggling with lately. Figuring out how to release the cars in time to do laps. Really nice first sector there. That's purple as it should be, but people will improve on their last runs usually. Alright, no slide there this time. That was better. Overall, I feel like I've been a little timid this lap. Timid ain't quick. I had no problems through here this time. Pretty nice run. Oh, I bottomed on the curb and it sent it straight a bit there. Yeah, that compromised our sector 3. It's quickest as of right now, but that will not hold. A 33.7 is quite a bit down on what I feel the car ultimately had in it. So I kind of choked on Q3 today. But it should get us, I would say, somewhere in that range I wanted to be.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Red, Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
I don't know. I don't understand why everybody keeps slowing down so much in Q3. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like every every driver from 2nd to 6th ran quicker times than this in Q1, really, Q2 especially. So I don't know what the deal is there. Like, Kimi lost over a second and a half over his, normal times. So no idea what the deal is there. Actually really close though, 0.017 between me and Hamilton there. Starting from the pole is great, but I don't know that we have the race pace that we have the qualifying pace of. You know what I mean? So I don't know that this one's well, just seal this one in the bag. It's a win. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than that, but starting first is good, especially, well, kind of especially not at a track with a straightaway like this. This is the longest run to turn 1, and you can get drafted by the time you even get to turn 1. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But
well done. Very solid results. You're looking good for the race.
I think we are looking good for the race. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for that Grand Prix.